Hello everyone, it's June from Artsy Loloco, and today I will show you a step-by-step tutorial on how to create this realistic, beautiful cherry blossom here on Procreate using our very own custom-made brushes created by me. I crafted 16 brushes and 3 unique texture canvases that are going to be available on Etsy for you to purchase. This sketch is going to be available for free, including the color palettes. Both links are going to be down below. If you do find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification so you don't miss a thing. So let's not waste time, grab your iPad and open up your Procreate and let's get started. For this painting, I'll be using the rough small canvas. So we're going to start off painting the petals in the beginning with light colors. So we'll use the light pink color. And don't worry too much, all the color palettes are going to be available as well. And go to your layers tab and start with paint here above the sketch that you inputted. And we're going to pick the wet on dry brush to start with. And we're going to use around 25% size and 100% opacity. And now we're going to color the petals. The wet on dry brush is very versatile because it tapers off when you have less pressure. And more pressure creates bigger surface areas. The wet on dry brush works really well with the petals as well because it creates nice hard edges and a nice layered look. And as you can see, you'll be tapering off a little bit more when you come closer to the tip of the petals. And then when you're back inside the petals area, you're going to have to put more pressure. You can do multiple strokes or you can do one stroke like this. And now we're going to move on with the next petal at the bottom. And the same thing, tapering off in the corners and putting a lot more pressure when we get to the center. And don't worry too much about going over the lines because one of the biggest hurdles in art is the pursuit of perfection. But remember, imperfections are what makes art unique and beautiful. Allow yourself to make mistakes and don't be afraid to embrace happy accidents along the way. Now we're going to move on with the budding or bud stage of the cherry blossom. And we're just going to paint the tip of the bud here so we can finish off with darker colors at the bottom. Now we're going to create a new layer and paint the pigment in the middle and spread across the petals. So we're going to pick a darker pigment from what we had and use the wet on wet brush and keep the size to around 10%. And we're going to make a small circular motion in the center of the petals. Now here comes the fun part. Now we're going to push the pigment out towards the petals. So we're going to first combine the layers that we had of the petals and the pigment that we just added by pinching the two. And now use the regular blender to push out the pigment. And keep the size around 25. And now we're just going to push out just like this. This will help to achieve a smooth effect where it fades from dark to light. And just like that, we're going to move on with the next petals. And with this petal, we're only going to push the pigment upwards because the bottom petal is actually protruding towards me, so it won't show the pigment effect. Now we're going to finish it off with using a moving blender to add a little bit more wet on wet effect. And just follow along just like me, where I move it up and down motion, mixing the colors in, blending the colors a lot more together. Now we're going to create a new layer and put some midtones in the flowers. So I picked a color that is a little bit darker from the original color that we put in, and I choose the wet on dry brush again. And keep the size to around 25% and 100% opacity. and all I'm doing is just adding some textures on the edge of the petals. And it gives a natural contours on the folds of the petals, where there's areas that catch the light a little bit more lighter in the middle. And I'm strategically placing midtones between the highlights and the shadows, which create the illusion of depth and dimension. Each layer builds almost a richness to the complexity of the overall composition of the petals. And moving on to the second petal at the bottom here. And I'm starting with the bottom of the petal to give more dimension to the petal as it is protruding towards me as a painter. And I'm putting more darker tones in the edges to give that curvature look. Also, we're going to add some more midtones to the bud at the bottom. Now we're going to combine the midtones and the original painting that we had, and we're going to start blending them. So pick the moving blender, and we're going to start mixing the midtones with the lighter petals that we created before. And we're going to keep the size to around 10% and 100 opacity level. Now all we're doing is going from a wavy motion to mix in the two colors to give a more natural look with watercolor. And now we're going to paint the pistils of the cherry blossom in the middle. So we're going to paint this on the gouache layer to make it pop more, and then also use the gouache brush and pick the whitest color that you can find and keep the size to around 5%. And just have to zoom in a bit, and then here we go. And just create the lines how I have the sketches on. And you could experiment with shorter and longer pistils, but as you get closer, I want to make it look like it's protruding towards me, so it's going to be a lot shorter. But when the pistils are further away or going away from me, it's going to be a lot bit longer. And you're going to do the same thing on the second petal. And the gouache brush also has a nice tapering effect. And now we're going to pick a really dark red cherry looking color and paint the tip of the pistil, which is a stigma. When we paint the stigma, think of it as a small shape of 9 on one side and it's mirrored in the other side, giving a gentle curl to the center of the flower. This adds more delicate touch of detail, making the blossom look more natural and beautiful. And it's the same thing with the original petals that we created. Again, Think of it as a figure 9, but opposite on the left side, and on the right side, it's the figure 9 effect. But when you get to the center, it's just going to be an oval shape because there is no curling into the center that we can see. Now, all we have to do is add the bottom part of the bud using the same mid-tone colors that we used before, and use the wet on dry brush and go back to the layer that we originally painted on and keep the size to around 10% because it's a smaller area, and then just paint the small area at the bottom. And now we're going to add the branch. So create a new layer, and we're going to use a dark brown color, and we're going to paint all the way from the top to the bottom. And the dark branch makes the bright pink cherry blossom look a lot more alive and contrast very nicely. Now all we have to do is add a little bit more darkness on top of the layer that we had at the bottom of the stems. And now we can remove the sketch by going to your layers and unclicking the box. And to finish it off, we're going to add some splashes. So create a new layer, and we're going to pick a mid-tone color that we used before and use the Epic Splash and keep the size to around 15%. And we're just going to go from right to left, from up to down. And we're also going to add another mid-darker tone color. And then to end it off, we're going to add the darkest tone color as well. All you have to do is get rid of the washi tape. So go to your washi tape layer and pick any brush that is big enough to erase it. I chose the oil brush that comes with Procreate. And all you do is just erase the washi tape, just like this. And there you have it. Beautiful, simple cherry blossom. And if you are enjoying these tutorials, please let me know in the comments down below. Like and follow this channel for more tutorials. And as always, have a wonderful day.